Hey, you know this is TLF time because on Marcelian Online we always let you know what day it is. And you know what day it is? It's Friday. That means TLF, and that means what, Flame? What do we have today?
That means Castle Nathria.
Oh.
Okay, guys, listen. We're kind of reaching the end of the tier, and most people already cleared Nathria on Mythic, but then again, we still have a couple of changes now that pretty much everybody's fully geared. So all of the talks are today in regards to you being geared. And a little short disclaimer, when it comes to essentially the first 6 to 7 bosses of the raid, like all the way up to Sludgefist, pretty much all tanks can do them, no problem. If you're geared and if you know what you're doing, if you have your legendary and conduits, you should probably have no issues doing all of these boss fights on a general perspective. So we will take a look at how they perform at the end of the tier. When you're geared, can you get your cutting edge? Which tank is the best to get your cutting edge with? What do I say? Cutting edge.
Cutting edge.
But without further ado, let's actually hop into the thing, man.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go right into it and start it off with the Blood Death Knight. Which Blood Death Knight, I mean, it's really good sustain, I would say. Pretty powerful defensives for this tier as well.
It's okay. It can negate a couple of things. The thing with the Blood Death Knight and what's probably going through people's minds is that at the beginning of the tier, it's one of the worst tanks in the game because it just has you run the risk of being one shot in the span of a global where you wouldn't have enough time to react to Death Strike essentially. And now that you have gear, and also because all the tanks have the 10% extra damage reduction buff except Vengeance, and now Death Knight is doing pretty good, and it's one of the tanks that needs no healers whatsoever.
Yeah, its healer reliance is pretty low actually. I mean, okay, it has its problems with the mobility, as we know already about the Knights, but if you play Venter, you can use Door of Shadows.
Some Blood Decays can play Venter, and you can, especially in Castle Nathria, where you have the platforms.
Yeah,
this is a common thing. If you want to get like that last kill, that last boss, if you don't have ways to deal with the range adds, getting leaper tanks or tanks with like Door of Shadow specifically, I think Theotar gives you 2 charges, we can also get back.
Yeah.
Or you can also time it with Hand of Destruction, but that's a little bit spicy, dicey.
Yeah, but it's also, I feel Blood Decay has like the lowest damage out of like all the tanks, but
almost the lowest, yeah.
Yeah, but it has the biggest HPS, but take that with a grain of salt because on logs, things can get quite tricky sometimes, but at least from the data we got gathered so far, the HPS from Blood Decay is the highest, beating Paladin and Guardian Druid too. So that's important. And I would say, like in terms of like ranking it, it's an A tier.
It's definitely, it's competitive among the top of the tanks, specifically because what's probably keeping it from being above the rest is its damage. It's not the lowest, but it's pretty low and low enough where you're gonna feel the difference between Blood Decay and let's say other tanks that have a lot more damage. Other than that, it's really good. It's one of the best tanks you can do progression with right now. If you're geared, we're talking about 220-ish plus eye level and all the legendaries set.
Definitely good. But now let's move along to the Brewmaster Monk, which right off the bat we have to say, Brewmaster Monk has mobility, and mobility is quite important, especially on the last 2 bosses, right?
Yeah.
So
it's difficult. It's debatable how good it is on Stone Legion generals, but the fact is that Brewmaster also brings a lot of damage. Mobility is all nice in pretty much all of the aspects except the platform mechanic in Sire, but then again, one of the most important phases of Sire is phase 3, so maybe that's not as big of an issue for Brewmaster. It was kind of like a tank that people expected to be really good this year, but it really wasn't as good as people expected. But right now, with all the gear, I mean, it's doing pretty good. Yeah,
it's also like I feel like it's one of the tanks that is like the most healer reliant, like as opposed to Blood Decay where the healers don't really need to like pump in all the time. I feel like Brewmaster really needs that sometimes. It's I don't know, maybe it's the people don't understand the stagger mechanic necessarily, or
the thing is right now people just want to do as much damage, and there are a couple of things that keep Brewmaster still on the map. You can have a Celestial Brew for almost all of the important mechanics. It's not going to negate them, but it's definitely going to help you keep your HP just above there. And of course, if you're lucky when you're fighting Sire or Mornia and you have a lot of dodge stacks, you can essentially dodge stacks being applied, so you can assist your other co-tank by getting healed up faster, or assist your healers by essentially tanking the boss for longer than most other tanks can, because you're just negating the debuff that you would normally have to taunt off.
That's true. That's true. It's the thing is, you realize we're making this tier list after the buffs to all the tanks except
the buffs.
It's going to be
Brewmaster a little bit better than it was at the beginning. So yeah,
for sure.
Guys,
I mean, it's basically now we can safely put it into a B tier.
Yeah.
I don't remember how it was previously. Like in the last, I think it was 2 months ago when we did the
might have been lower on the tier list.
Yeah, definitely could have been. But nevertheless, I think right now looking at it, it's viable in all departments. And as Flame mentioned, we are going to be looking more specifically for Stone Generals and the Nathrias to really make the difference between these tanks.
Those are probably the biggest blocks you will have as a guild progressing through Mythic, and those are probably the ones that you really want to think about more. So this is why it's more in tune with that. But so we are going to move to the big fluffy bear. One of the sleepers right now. People are not really paying attention to bear in a lot of the content. And not a lot of people know what owl weaving or not, although owl weaving does actually contribute to this. It's probably the second best damage dealer in terms of tanks, competing up there with the almighty Prot Paladin. Not to mention that bears don't really need healers for a lot. I mean, if you play your sustain right and your damage mitigation a lot, and you have a lot of gear, then you don't require too much. You can just like passive hots and stuff like that is pretty good. Yeah,
and it's that on top of the fact that obviously you have the roar for mobility. You mentioned the damage. It can dodge. On Sarah the hits. I would say also, it's like Guardian, at least for people like starting off really late into the season. It's not the most complicated tank to master. It's pretty darn off easy to get into. I would say decent enough to play to its full capacity. And when you do that, I think it's among the most in terms of like HPS. It's sort of there with the Prot Paladin. Not as good as Blood Decay, I would say.
No, there's Blood Decay is on a different level, but Guardian is maybe probably one of the most complete tanks in terms of what you can do. There are one or two things that you might feel like you're lacking as a bear. Maybe you cannot leap on the platforms because you're not really gonna go Venthyr. And although we do say that Guardian is on the simpler side when it comes to if you want to optimize damage, because let's say now you're super geared, you don't really want to stack 10 Iron Furs, but you really want to convoke into that owl. It's risky.
It is
pull it off. Hot damn.
Big damage. And I would say like how's it looking now? I would say Guardian is an A tier. But I'd put it behind Blood Decay just because of the HPS thingy.
It's up there. It has way more damage than Blood Decay. It's very hard to see which one is better because Blood Decay also requires a specific mindset from the healers. While if they will ever have to heal you, but Bear is just like it's Druid.
But you gotta love it. It's fluffy, it's cute, and deadly. So yeah, it's really good.
Deadly indeed.
All right, let's move along to the Soldier of the Light, the Protection Paladin, which is the first. I mean, Propellant has ridiculous damage. I've seen it. There's no way.
Venthyr, especially Venthyr Paladins going with the Mad Paragon are going to output a lot of damage. They do have their Light of the Protector in terms of sustain. In terms of their kit overall, I mean, it's okay. In terms of the raids, what you probably will see more, especially on Sludge Fist and on the Nathrias, is that you can immune certain effects. You can use Blessing of Spell Warding for yourself, so you don't actually lose aggro. I personally saw myself having to use Bubble to drop a couple of stacks that were by accident too many on me that I could possibly handle with myself, and healers had to heal me a little bit more. Just Bubble, Taunt, and use a Cancel Aura for Bubble. That works really well. Highly suggest you have one of those as an aspiring Prot Paladin. Other than that, damages a lot. Mobility is kind of what's keeping it a little bit down.
I guess. I mean, the pony is good, but it's not amazing.
You're probably gonna be Venthyr with the portals, though.
Probably. That could be a saving grace for Prot Paladins for sure. And at least in terms of the damage profile, a lot of them, if not most of them, are Venthyr. Because Ashen Hollow is with wings and everything. It's just amazing. That being said, I would definitely see Paladins into B tier.
I think so.
But it's in terms of like HPS, it's up there with Guardian Druid. Not as good as Blood Decay. Although I think the community perception for a lot of people is that because they baked in like Word of Glory and Shield of the Righteous being on holy powers and stuff, you kind of need to heal a lot as a Prot Paladin, right? Sometimes you have to go for.
It depends because when the content scales a bit too much. Just that little buff of armor doesn't really
do, because we know Shield of the Righteous isn't. I think you said it. It's kind of like backdoor Iron Fur.
It's like
a poor man's Iron Fur.
Poor man's Iron Fur. It doesn't stack. It does give. Don't get me wrong, guys. It does give you a decent amount of armor, and it does help with melee attacks. But if you're standing in Consecration and you're just getting chunked a lot, probably Light of the Protector, because or Word of Glory. Jesus, I keep messing those names up. It's probably gonna be pretty good. But either way, Paladin is gonna do it.
Yeah, it's B tier for sure. And let's see now how the other protection class is doing. The Prot Warrior, which I know last time was ranked a little bit lower-ish or in the middle of the pack before the buffs and everything.
We were seeing Prot Warrior pretty high, but that did have its drawbacks. The thing is now with the extra 10% damage reduction and with the amount of mobility, Prot Warrior's main damage is still main issue is still kind of damage. Because the damage legendary reprisal, I mean, is mostly run into Mythic Plus. I mean, you probably could run in raids. I don't know. But in terms of kit, I feel like a lot of people are missing out on the benefits of intervening your co-tank, especially on Stone Legion generals. When they're taking a lot of the heat, you can essentially intervene and use one of those shield block charges that will eventually start to cap on you. Also, that there's that mechanic in Stone Legion generals where the ad just jumps on somebody and just smashes their face in. You can also intervene and just take all of that damage on you.
Man, that's so good. Yeah.
Pretty good if you're not the active tank. That essentially can save somebody and intervene. It's not like a big cooldown. Also, Spell Reflect, you can Spell Reflect. I don't know what they're called again.
You can Spell Reflect the bleeds from.
You can definitely find like the details of all this on the tanknotes.com, specifically devised by the man Panthea.
Definitely worth checking out. And I would say Prot Warrior in terms of like both HPS and DPS is kind of on the low side, at least in terms of healing. It's really healer dependent, I would say. It's a big difference between a Prot Warrior and a Blood Decay in terms of numbers, and even a Prot Warrior and the Prot Paladin and Guardian Druid.
Yeah, so this is in comparison with the other specs, guys. Like if you're properly geared and you know how you use your defensives, you're not gonna require as much healing as you would have required like about a month ago or 2 months ago. So there's not really an issue. The only reason why we're just making this argument is that so you know that okay, there's a difference, but the difference is not that big as like, oh my god, I just need to heal Prot Warrior all the time.
It cannot work or anything like that. All the tanks work, no problem. Now, as we said, we're kind of looking at the final picture with the buffs to everybody except Vengeance, and everybody being geared up so far, and it's basically things that
it's a good tank for Sire as well if you want to get cutting edge.
The leap is really good.
Really good. You can still potentially parry some of the attacks, although it's maybe not that reliable. But between Spell Reflect and Intervene and having all of your defenses Rallying Cry is really good. You can get up to like what 20 to 30% extra HP for your entire raid. That's pretty nuts.
I mean, it's definitely a very, very useful cooldown to have, up there with things like Darkness and Anti-Magic Zone and all of that. So we can safely put
it's with the B tier. I think it's a B tier. It's pretty
sitting in between Brewmaster and Prot Paladin and looking pretty good. And the last one on the list, which hasn't seen the wave of buffs, it's Vengeance Demon Hunter.
I didn't really need it.
Although it's like it's not. So what the buffs did in my eyes essentially is like they brought all the tanks up to being like super viable for everything, right? If you had an argument before the buffs that hey, and especially at the beginning of progression, maybe you were pretty iffy of taking a Prot Warrior or a Brewmaster Monk and something like that. Now it makes it all clear that with gear and these buffs, everybody's viable. But to touch on Demon Hunter, nevertheless, it's like first of all, having the Chaos brand, having like the Fiery brand, the parry, the high armor, everything. It's so many tools to
so Vengeance Demon Hunter is a good example of kind of a complete tank, although do we really want this? I don't know if Blizzard really wants this because Vengeance kind of has a tool for everything. And that's actually pretty cool. As a tank to feel like you can have an answer for anything, that's actually a pretty cool feeling, and I just hope that they continue this kind of like thought process when they're designing and they're balancing tanks with each other. There are of course drawbacks to Vengeance. It's probably the one with the lowest single target damage. It kind of rivals Blood Decay in terms of overall damage. It kind of depends, but pure single target, AoE though.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good, and even like in terms of HPS, you know, it's kind of in the middle of the pack. It's below Guardian and then Prot Paladin, but it's not as bad, well, quote unquote bad, as Prot Warrior or even Brewmaster Monk. But that being said, you know, high mobility, I think, you know, that's a really strong point, especially in Sire, and you can also argue that in Stone Legion as well.
I just put with the what is it called again? Infernal Strike, the leap. You can negate all of the knockbacks effects from Sire, which is pretty good. Obviously, other tanks have ways to deal with this as well. Vengeance kind of went into people's eyes as the best tank in the game. It's obviously one of the better design, but I think its place right now is still within the A tier.
It's pretty A-tier.
Balanced.
It's the first into A tier. Yeah. So if last time, I'm pretty sure we would have had like the S tier Vengeance and then a couple onto.
It felt like that. Now that
everything is, I really like how it became, how the game transformed.
This is looking pretty good.
Yeah, it's perfect. There's no C or D tiers, and it's not like we're trying to make it like we were trying to like make everyone happy. No, it's just like from the data you would see like from Warcraft logs, and also talking with the big boy tanks in a lot of like, you know, the theory crafters and, you know, highly experienced tanks and all of the specs. It's pretty safe to assume that all of the information portrays a very balanced picture, I would say, at this point in the game, right?
This just goes to show that I don't know if Blizzard had access to the numbers that we currently have now, but the tanks are fairly balanced with each other. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, there's a Wowhead article about tank balance and meta just released recently right now. And yeah, if you want to check that out, you can also check that out as well. But the tanks are fairly balanced, and if you want to know exactly what your tank can do on a specific boss, like what is the niche, what you can mitigate or negate, you can check the tanknotes.com website, which is managed by Panthea, one of the best tank theory crafters that I have the pleasure to talk to, and you can see exactly everything that you need to know about Mythic, especially for all of the bosses. Let's say not just the last two, but you can definitely check all of the entire raid and see what your tank can bring.
Yeah, well, we didn't focus on all of the raid because, as like Flame said in the beginning, like all of the bosses except Stone Legion and Sire are really doable, no problemo with all the tanks, right? Like the real busters or blocks would be the last two bosses. So this is why we kind of evolved it around here. But that being said, in terms of like the quote-unquote meta, everything is viable, everything works at this point in the game at least. So just pick and choose whatever you feel like playing, you know, fantasy-wise or whatever, and you'll be fine. You'll be just fine.
You know, if you want to start up a new tank and you don't know how, you can check our channel for a lot of the tank guides. I think the only one that we're missing right now, which we're starting to work on, is Brewmaster.
Brewmaster is the only one. We have guides for all of the tanks on the channel, so definitely go check them out. It's basically, we're getting to that point where everything has been like rounded up, and we're
probably
anxiously waiting for
too many changes in 9.05. Most likely 9.1.
9.1 will definitely
that will kind of change, and obviously for the tier list, when it comes to 9.1, we'll need to, you know, see exactly how the raid is.
Now we might just go after all this time. We might just go on doing a couple of more fun tier list. Most fun,
because now we had actually the chance to play with that.
Yeah, well, we kind of like got into everything and tested it out and looked at all the data. We're gonna combine everything and make it pretty interesting, because I know a lot of you out there wanted you know, fun tier list once again. So we're gonna bring them back because it's appropriate now in the coming future. But that being said, first off, thank you, Patreons, for all of the lovely support you are showing month by month, supporting, you know, all the class guides, these shows like the TLF, the podcast, which we have recorded a tons of.
We're so kicking it off with the podcast, guys, and that's juicy, and it's a lot of cool vibes and a lot of cool information that you can check there. And of course, we cannot go without thanking the Twitch gang. God damn it, you guys are amazing for, you know, coming every day when we stream and seeing us play and off of
say more of him. I only stream with him when we're raiding, but that's fine.
Hey man, you can roll off a ledge every now and again.
I know. So thank you so much, everybody, for all of the support. If you ever wanted to, you know, check us out on Twitch or anything, become a Patreon. Links are in the description. And lastly, thank you for watching up until this point, and you have a great weekend ahead. All right,
bye.
No more bullshit. It's gonna be a great weekend. Bye.
Stand, man. It's awkward. Dude, it's still.
I've been loving it then, I still love it now. Still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. Getting better every day, let me show you how. Cause still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. It's getting harder to stay, but at the end of the day, it's a guilty pleasure, so just log in and play. Whether it's classic or retail, I'ma do a /bow. Still, I play WoW.